You are being called to live in peace, on purpose, with passion and prosperity. But you can't do that if you haven't unlearned the crap. The crap that is disempowering you. The crap of conditioned responses and automatic programming. And that's what we're here to do. So that you can level up because you know your soul is calling. Welcome to Unlearn the Crap and Level Up TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Welcome to Unlearn the Crap and Level Up Your Soul is Calling. I'm your host, Kathy Baldwin. And in today's segment of Beyond the Interview, I'm going to do a throwback to one of my favorite conversations. My conversation with Marcy Bialeschki. She is an author and part of a mastermind group that I was a part of. I'd gotten to know Marcy on a personal level through my mastermind group, and I loved how she came at all of our conversations about what we were bringing to the world, how we were stepping into our zone of genius, and she brought it from the point of view of being a teacher, an educator, and now a successful romance fiction author, writer. And Marcy, the reason I chose her conversation for today's Beyond the Interview is because I want to celebrate the fact that she was the #1 listened to episode in the last 30 days. And so thank you so much for joining in on our conversation. There were some amazing things that we talked about that I wanted to connect on a personal level. One, Marcy, because Marcy was an author and an educator, she wasn't actually working directly with clients. And in the mastermind group we were in, a lot of people were directly working with clients. And so I remember having a conversation with her about whether or not she was fitting within our framework. And I loved this perspective because, one, I always talk about our individual zone of genius. And when we're in an environment where there is so much similarity between everyone else, we can kind of feel a little lost, a little disconnected. I know while I do work with clients one-on-one, or I have my group programs, really the main way that I work within my own zone of genius is through this podcast, through my books, through my interviews, through my speaking engagements. That is more aligned with who I am and what I do. And so Marcy and I were experiencing this disconnect in this environment. And I loved thinking about it because we can all, when we're coming into our zone, into our gifts, into our purpose, a lot of times we'll take a look at who we are, what we do, and we're going to compare it to the environment we're in. A lot of times we've been taught the crap that we're supposed to be one of many, and that like joins like. But what was joining us together was not how we serve the world, but in our intention and in our focus to be personally aligned. And I think that was extremely important and something I wanted to really talk about. I know when I was a part of 12-step healing groups in my past, there was a saying that said we have a tendency to compare our insides with other people's outsides. We have a way of being self-critical and looking at us and wondering, do I fit? Do I belong? And I do know that that is a part of our central nervous system. That is a part of what will trigger our ability to wonder, do we fit? Do we belong? Are we going to be cast out? Because our reptilian brain wants us to be accepted. It wants us to be safe. And we find safety in our group. But while we're in this time of personal evolvement and personal alignment, we're going to see the places that we are not fitting with those around us as we start to fit better within ourselves. And I think it's really important that we talk about how that feels and have proper expectations that there will be some discomfort, there will be some questioning, but that doesn't mean retreat. It's an awareness, it's a mirror. Everything in our world is a mirror back to us. And so as you are on your own evolution, which is why I picked this interview to talk about in my Beyond the Interview segment today, because we talked a lot about the alignment of ourselves, but we talked about it through the lens of literacy and literature and education and current systems and how we can make conscious choices. So one of the things that we talked about early in that interview with Marcy was the very first thing she does when she sits down to write any book is character development. And I was thinking, you know, when I had my breakdown and I was so broken and so disconnected from myself, I didn't know where to begin. I was lost. I was confused. And one of the things that I did was try to figure out who I was. And so as I was going through the list of trying to identify who I was, without planning on it, I realized that I was discarding the things I no longer wanted, because as I brought it to my attention, to my focus, in an area of what I thought I was, and I looked at that, well, I don't want that. Okay, yes, I may identify with that, but that didn't work for me. That made me sick. That caused me pain. That was not healthy for me. And so I would cast it aside. And so through this process of my own healing journey, and in reflecting with my conversation with Marcy, it was really clear that the beginning of my healing journey began just the way she begins a book, which is on character development. And it is so important. I don't think anyone's ever told us this, and it definitely wasn't told to me. We can choose who we are. We can choose our thoughts, our beliefs, our values, our boundaries, our morals, our priorities. We can choose who we are. It is not necessarily the evolution of what has happened to us, the beliefs that we've been conditioned. It's definitely not if we choose it. But so many times we're going through our world unconsciously on autopilot based on just what has happened to us and us rolling with the punches. I know that was how I had a life in sales the majority of my life. My very first job was given to me by a family friend to go and work in my local mall. I was really good at selling. I was really good at connecting with the clients. I was really good at problem solving. And so I became successful in sales. Well, that just put me on an autopilot of going from one sales job to another sales job. And that meant that I focused my training and my expertise and everything on sales. Part of my breakdown made me realize that while I am very good at sales, in developing sales teams, because of how much I care about people and what's best for them and being of service, and because I'm really passionate, and that passion can be exciting and transferable, that did not necessarily mean that that was my purpose or my place or where I was aligned with. And so the way we can create a character in a fiction book or in a TV show or a movie or any other way, we can do that for ourselves. I was thinking about my book on how I unlearned my crap, and which I'm really excited about. I just got, sorry, I don't mean to go off track, but I just got a review from somebody that blew my mind about. I got this review about how they were able to see where the crap was for them, and it really made me happy to know that my journey and my words were of value to others. And one of the things I talked about in the book was that I may have identified with being broken, but I wasn't broken. I was just disconnected. I was disconnected from myself. And so I used a lot of different things that Marcy and I talked about in our conversation to go about my healing journey. We talked about the hero's journey in that and how important it was to the book to capture our attention, to draw us in, to want to read more. It couldn't be easy and without stress or conflict. There needed to be tension. There needed to be something that kept us captivated and engaged. And the same goes for us when we're in our lives. So many times we think of stress as externally put upon us and something that we need to manage. But if the stress is coming from internal because it is pushing us out of our comfort zone or taking us to a dream or aligning with who we really are, we're going to be creating that tension, that stress internally. And if we are aware that we are doing this consciously, purposely, and by decision, we can utilize that stress, that tension to captivate us even more, to engage us more, to bring us right into focus of what it is we are doing and being, because we require that stress, that tension to come out of autopilot. When we're living on autopilot, we're going through the motions, but we're not in the moment. We're not actually engaged in living our own lives. We're not actually engaged in the process of fulfilling our dreams and living our passion, because passion cannot exist when we're on autopilot. That was the other area that we talked about with Marcy, because Marcy, although she is a personal author who talks about romance, she does a little bit of the deep dive into the spicy, into the sexy, into the erotic. And the erotic comes from our thoughts and our ability to come into the moment of feeling, of really experiencing. I mean, she talked about how she could write 2 pages about what a kiss felt like. Imagine if you had enough focused attention to be able to articulate every moment as seductively and as sensually as she is able to describe a kiss. Imagine how alive your senses would be.
because we have way, 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 way more than our five senses that we've been taught. We were taught sight, hearing, smell, touch, and sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. Imagine if you knew of the whole, so far they've cataloged over 122 different senses that we have. Each one of those senses are a sensory input that brings information into our three brains, our heart, our gut, our mind. Imagine how rich our life would be if we were living using the information from these senses to be connected. Imagine if every nerve ending, every thought, every feeling, every expression was fully connected to every aspect of your life because you set the intention. Just the same way we can focus that attention in writing or reading or building a character or a story. And that's what I really loved about my conversation with Marcy, is we think about these tools and strategies like learning how to write the great novel or a romance novel or a TV show or any of these other external things. But if we can take these concepts and apply them to our life, to our identity, do it with design and conscious intention, what traits would you be writing about in your life today? What areas would you want to put a magnifying glass on and expand and really savor and enjoy? Is there a part of you that is creating stress and tension that you're trying to minimize instead of amp it up and bring it into full focus and find what that message is that is trying to come forward? Is it something to discard and turn away from, or is it something to lean into? I absolutely love the idea of turning our lives into the romance, the sexiness that we seek externally in books. I love the idea of falling madly and passionately in love with ourself and our life and our journey, and waking up to the concept that we don't need to live flatlined. Because so many times we're looking for those feelings and we're looking for them in external sources. And books like what Marcy writes are a fantastic way to wake us up, to re-energize us, to reinvigorate our concept of passion, of joy, of being alive. But if we only leave it in the external, if we only leave it in the books that we pick up and then that world disappears when we put the book down, what value are we getting out of it besides escapism? But if we use books like this that bring us alive, that capture our attention, and we use those concepts to bring them into our life, into our here and now, our expression of what our purpose and our passion and our peace is, then we are utilizing the tools that we don't necessarily see as our alignment. Just like my conversation with Marcy about being in this networking group, it was those things on the outside, the things that don't quite fit into the mold, that are there to capture our attention for a reason. The reason that it is in our forefront is because it matters to us. and our heart and our soul are calling our attention. Excuse me, excuse me, could you pay a little more attention here? So if we're seeking the romance, the erotic, the passion, maybe we need a little bit more of it in our lives. If we're seeking adventure and stress and high intensity, maybe our lives are a little flat. If we're seeking anything externally, it is a call to us to look at something. Because we are fully dimensional beings with all sides of us. And we can and should, I don't like that word should, I never did. We have the ability to choose what it is we want to pay attention to. So when you're feeling a little flatlined, a little drab, a little trapped, a little stuck, and you're seeking for something external, food, booze, romance, sex, shopping, anything to get those dopamine highs, it's information that is telling us, this is where we want you to look. This is where I want you to pay attention to me. This is what I need you to feed me. This is where I need to come alive. This is something that's important to me. So I encourage you to go and listen to my podcast with Marcy. I'll put the link below. I encourage you to think about where in your life are you feeling a strong connection, positive, negative, it really doesn't matter. It's the intensity that matters. It's the intensity that is trying to capture your attention. Because the things that don't matter to us don't even affect us. They don't filter through our reticular activating system within our brain. They don't capture our attention because they have no value. They do not elicit a response. So it is those things that capture your attention. It is the ability for us to choose who we are, what's important, where do we want to go, who do we want to be, what do we want to contribute. That's the value that I got out of my conversation with Marcy. That it doesn't have to just be within an escapism book, but using these books, these mediums that capture our attention to tell us what we're actually feeling. Use it as a mirror to really get to know ourselves. Because our greatest empowerment comes from self-knowledge, from self-acceptance. Good, bad, ugly. It's all information. And our good, bad, ugly are labels. It's what we do with it that matters. So check out my conversation with Marcy. Think about some of the concepts that have been brought up. Make sure that you're subscribing to this podcast. Comment what your thoughts and feelings are. Get engaged. Get involved. Get connected. Don't be passive in these conversations. And know that if you need any assistance with any of these conversations, I do have my Unlearn the Crap collaborative community. I do have my She Wins collaborative community where we're networking and connecting in business. So one is for the personal, one is for the business. You can reach out at any point in time and connect with me, and I can help guide you to what it is that is the crap that you're looking to unlearn. But use everything that's available to you. The books, the TV shows, the thoughts, the feelings. It's all important. because it's all captured your attention. This has been another segment of Beyond the Interview. And my name is Kathy Baldwin, and we are a part of the Unlearn the Crap movement because we are being called to level up because our soul is calling. I'll see you the next time. Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Unlearning Curve. I hope you enjoyed it. If something landed for you today, make sure to follow, like, comment, and share, and check out all the other full interviews and other episodes of Unlearn the Crap and Level Up podcast, where you'll find deeper conversations, expert guests, and real stories from people just like you who are unlearning their crap and choosing clarity. Visit me at kathybaldwin.me and get all my free resources. Check out my coaching programs as well as my books. Until next time, keep showing up, keep unlearning, and keep leveling up because your soul is calling.